Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to practice together official SAT test number 8, module number 2, the second half of our reading questions, questions 12 to 18. So in this actual module, the reading questions are from 6 to 18, I think, and we already did 6 to 11. We're going to do 12 to 18 together now. I'm going to try to go as fast as possible, but please note that this is module 2, and these questions are pretty hard, okay? So help me out here, focus. Please, if you're watching this as a recording, definitely pause and take your notes. This is very important. These are hard questions, okay? And did I say they were hard? They are hard, okay? Let's go, people. Let's start with question number 12. Let me make sure you guys can see this. Come on, come on, come on. And here you go. All right. You all see number 12? Do you see number 12? Give me a thumbs up. Yay, let's go. All right. Question number 12, my dear friends. Let's do this. All right. So, official test number 8, module number 2, reading question number 12. First thing we do, we always read the question to know what the question is asking me, and that really saves time. Which statement about the, all right, let's start highlighting. The diffrasismo in something, something, something is most strongly supported by the text. All right, so this type of question is called our support question. Basically, all we need to do is find the answer choice that supports the thing about this weird thing right here from the text. So you go read the text, you find this weird thing. I'm going to call it a thing because you definitely don't want to waste time during the test trying to pronounce something you don't know how to pronounce. So I'm just going to call it this thing. Which sentence supports this thing right here? Let's read the text. Hurry up. Come on. So, poetry in classical something, the language of the Aztec Empire, relies on diffrasismo. And diffrasismo is right here, so underline. Or a parallel noun construction that conventionally operates as a single metaphor. For example, the common diffrasismo in, oh, there you go. So I'm going to highlight this in blue. So this is the part they're asking me about. Okay, actually, let's do it in yellow like we did in the question. So this is the thing that I'm asking you about. See, it's in yellow here and here. Literally, this thing means the eagle, the jaguar. Okay. It signifies warrior. All right. So this weird thing means the eagle, the jaguar, but it signifies warrior. All right. The device's function is both formal, providing structure to lines of verse, and ritual, semantic relations among the two nouns and the concept they signify can be tenuous, as in the previous example, such that diffrasismos are often only intelligible according to the conceptual associations observed in Aztec ceremonial culture. And here I have a little hack for you. Okay? Look here. We're talking about something called X. What is X? This diffrasismo. I hope I'm writing this right. Okay? This is what we have in the passage. We're talking about something called the diffrasismo. Then we talk about X exactly as it is in the question keywords. What is the question keywords? It's what we actually have in the question itself. So the question itself was talking about the example called diffrasismo in something something, which is the one that has the eagle and the warrior and that stuff. All right? Okay. Then at the end of our passage, we talk about X again, which is the diffrasismo. Now, the question itself asks you about this part, right? It's the exact part. Let's take a look back here, and hopefully you guys are going to understand what I'm talking about. Let's take a look at the example one more time, at the sentence. So right here, look. We're talking about diffrasismo here in blue. We're saying that differencismo is a parallel noun construction that operates as a single metaphor. Then we have in yellow the differencismo in quatilim, so and so and so, which is the thing that was in the actual question keyword. So this is what we call question keyword skill. Okay? So this is the part right here in yellow. Then in blue again at the end, we talk at the differencismos again. All right? So we actually talk about differencismo 3 times. The first time is a definition. The second time is the actual question keyword skill, the thing that we actually have in the question. And then the third one is some kind of explanation related to differencismos. Now, what is the question asking you? It's saying which statement about this thing right here in the middle, right here in yellow, is supported by the text. Where do you think we will find the answer of such a question? Let me show you one more time. This is hard, but if you get it, it's going to be super easy. So, right here, for the first time, we talked about this differencismo thing. Then, right here, we talked about it exactly as it was in the question. Then, right here, we talked about it one more time. The question says, which of the answer choices supports this part in blue? Do you think that the part that supports this part in blue will be the part in blue itself? No, because the part in blue is the thing I'm asking you about, but I'm looking for support for this part. Where will I find support for this part? Either here or here. So if you have something that looks like this on the test, this is basically the hack. So it's a weird word that I'm defining. Then it's the word again, but it's actually what I'm asking you about in the question. Then there's some kind of explanation or definition about that same word at the end. My question is, which of the answer choices supports the part number 2 in yellow? It won't be the same thing. You can't support the thing with the thing itself. So it's either going to be the one in the beginning or the one at the end. Now, using this hack, let's go back to the 2 parts that talk about differencismo. And please note, guys, that I didn't explain anything. I do have a study guide for you guys where I explain actually what the passage is talking about. But I'm just assuming that you don't understand anything on the test, and I'm trying to give you some kind of hack here. So the answer choice will either be that differencismo is a parallel noun that gives a single metaphor, or it will be that differencismos are often only intelligible. Intelligible means we can understand them only if we understand culture. Okay, so either that it's parallel nouns that are metaphor or culture. Let's take a look at the answer choices. Its metaphorical significance derives from the semantic equivalence of the 2 nouns constituting the differencismo. This is the first part, part 1. Good. Its unintelligibility may cause its formal function within a line of verse to go unnoticed by present-day readers. Wrong, and present-day readers right here is something we call extra people skill. We were not talking about present-day readers, so B is wrong. C, its apparent obscurity can be resolved, so it will not be obscure, resolving the obscurity, so intelligible, that works. Considered in the proper cultural context, culture right here. So this is the third part, so C works as well. D, its frequency in classical Nahuatl poetry confirms its intelligibility to the Aztec audience. Aztec audience are extra people. So wow, look here, guys. What did I just do? I actually eliminated B and D because they had extra people, people who are not in the passage in the citation. And I kept A and C because A was number 1, the first part we talked about differencismo, and C was number 3, the last part where we talked about differencismo. Now, which one of these two supports the idea that we had in the middle? Come on. Hurry up. I don't know. This is really tough. And since it's really tough, then you can't use what you understand and you need to use some hack. And I just found a super duper hack. What is it? Let's zoom in, my friends. Look at A. Its metaphorical significance, and this is such a great one. Habiba, you're a genius. derives from the semantic equivalence of the two nouns. What is the meaning of semantic? Who knows? So semantic right here means the meaning. Equivalence means equal. Two nouns. Are the meanings of the two nouns the same? Do the two nouns in the differentismal mean the same thing? No. So this part in green is actually a contradiction skill. This is the opposite of what we're saying in the citation. So A is wrong. Why? Take a look at part A. What does it say? It says right here, relies on differentism or a parallel noun construction that conventionally operates as a single metaphor. Nobody said the two words mean the same thing. Continue. For example, the common differentismal, this thing literally means what? The eagle, the jaguar. So is the word eagle and the word jaguar the same thing? No. This is an animal, this is another animal. This is a bird, this is a land animal. They're not the same at all. So A is actually a contradiction, which leaves us with only C, even though we don't understand it 100%, but it is the only other thing that we have, which is cultural. All right, hard question, guys. Also use my study guide. In the study guide, I explain every single thing from the passage that will help you out. All right, people, let's do number 13, guys. Now, number 13 is actually really interesting. Let's just take a look at what the question wants, and then I'm going to zoom in. So the question says, which choice best states the main idea of the text? All right, so now I know we have a main idea question. So let's just zoom in here. This is a main idea question. All right. Basically, when we have a main idea question, we use two different skills a lot. The first one is something we call part whole skill, part/whole. And basically what a part whole skill is we try and look at the answer choices and see. The answer choice that translates, that only repeats a part of the passage is going to be wrong. And the answer choice that translates or repeats the idea in the whole of the passage is right. Why, my friends? Because this is a main idea question. So I'm looking for the main idea. Since I'm looking for the main idea, then I need something that is in the whole of the passage, not a little part, not an example. You get it? Okay. So for example, I'm just going to cough for a moment. I coughed, all right? Now, what is the main idea of today's class? The main idea of today's class is that I coughed? No. My cough is just a part. But the whole of the class, the whole of the video is answering reading questions, explaining reading skills and hacks. You get it? So the main idea must be something in the whole of the passage, not a little part. So that's one thing we use. The other thing we use something called main keyword skill. Main keyword skill basically means as we read the passage, we look for the main words, the words that are the most important, the keywords that are repeating or that are at the very beginning, like in the introduction, at the very end, in the conclusion. Once we realize what these important main words are, we try to get a feeling of what the right answer should contain. Okay? Let's give it a try together. Come on. Again, remember, guys, this is Module 2, second half of reading questions. That's the hardest thing you'll ever see on the test. 18th century economist Adam Smith is famed for his metaphor of the invisible hand, which he putatively used to illustrate a robust model of how individuals produce aggregate benefits by pursuing their own economic interests. Note, putatively, as Gavin Kennedy has shown, Smith deploys this metaphor only once in his economic writings, to make a narrow point about the then dominant economic theory of mercantilism. And it was largely ignored until some 20th century economists, eager to secure an intellectual pedigree for their views, elevated it to a fully fledged paradigm. Now, someone is going to tell me something, and I'm sure somebody's thinking this right now. And I think that this person will say, well, I basically don't understand anything. How am I going to get the main keywords here? I don't know what the main keywords are. I don't understand what the part or the whole is. Don't forget, you have answer choices. Use them. All right, so let's go. Good job, Malik. A. Although Smith is famed for his metaphor of the invisible hand, the metaphor was largely ignored until economists in the 20th century came to realize that the metaphor was a robust model that anticipated their own views. B. Some 20th century economists gave Smith's metaphor of the invisible hand a significance it does not have in Smith's work, but it is nevertheless a useful model of how individuals produce aggregate benefits by pursuing their own economic interests. What am I doing? I'm going to tell you. Smith's metaphor of the invisible hand has been interpreted as a model of how individuals acting in their own interest produce aggregate benefits, but it was intended as a subtle critique of the economic theory of mercantilism. D. The reputation of Smith's metaphor of the invisible hand is not due to the importance of the metaphor in Smith's work, but rather to the promotion of the metaphor by some later economists for their own ends. Whew. Now we're going to do something called skill number 11. And I'm going to zoom out here. Skill 11. All right. Using skill 11, my friends, skill 11 is called comparing answer choices, one of the important skills that we learn together in our course. Really, really important. Okay, let me just try to get the whole thing here in view for you. Excellent. Okay. Skill 11 is called comparing answer choices. So skill 1 was dividing the answer choices. After we've divided the answer choices, let's start comparing them to each other. Okay? And when you compare the answer choices, magically some things appear. For example, look what I just discovered. I discovered that answer A has economists in the 20th century. Answer D talks about later economists, so economists that came later on, so 20th century would work. Answer B talks about 20th century economists too. What about answer C? Let's see, let's see, let's see, let's see, let's see. No 20th century economists. Using skill 15, which is called similar answer choices, A, B, and D are probably better than C because they are similar in that they talk about economists who came later on. But are economists who came later on in the passage itself, are they a main keyword? I think so. Why? Because at the very beginning, it talked about the 18th century economist Adam Smith. Then later on at the end, it talks about what? It talks about 20th century economists. So if it's at the very beginning and then it's again at the very end that we're talking about economists, if we were talking about the guy in the 18th century and then the people who came later on in the 20th century, this is probably a whole. It is probably something that is important. So I would say A, B, and D are good. All right. So that's one thing we can do. Okay? Now, another thing that we can eliminate C for is right here, the economic theory of mercantilism. I can say that this part is actually a part, because if you look closely, mercantilism was just used as a little example right here. See? Only once is in economic writings to make a narrow point about the then dominant economic theory of mercantilism. So it's just a little part, and we're just saying a narrow point, so it's not that important. So I think we can safely ignore C. Now we're left with A, B, and D. All right? Okay. Realize, guys, that all of the answer choices talk about Smith's metaphor of the invisible hand. Smith's metaphor of the invisible hand, Smith's metaphor of the invisible hand, and then Smith's metaphor of the invisible hand. Now, since the same group of words, the same metaphor is in all answer choices, we can't really say that one of them is better than the other because they all have it. But you can try to focus on the difference between what we are saying about Smith's metaphor of the invisible hand in each of the answer choices, and this can be a clue. So let's take a look. Answer A says, although Smith is famed for his metaphor of the invisible hand, the metaphor was largely ignored until the 20th century. Is this true? Let's see. Yes, I think I read this already. Let's do this in green. It was largely ignored until 20th century. Okay, there you go. So A is actually very, very good. In relation to Smith's metaphor of the invisible hand, okay, nothing else. B, some 20th century gave Smith's metaphor of the invisible hand a significance it does not have in Smith's work. Okay, so it wasn't significant in Smith's work. I think that works because we said that it was just narrow. That works. But it is nevertheless a useful model of how individuals produce aggregate benefits by pursuing their own economic interests. Okay. A robust model of how, okay, it could work, so let's leave B. Let's take a look at D. The reputation of Smith's metaphor, the invisible hand, is not due to the importance of the metaphor in Smith's work, but rather to the promotion of the metaphor by some later economists. Oh, wait a minute. I actually think D is also really good. I think D is actually better than A and B. But before we go any further, I think B can be eliminated. Can you guys tell me why we can eliminate B? Come on, I'm going to give you like 10 seconds. I'm going to start looking at your answers here in the chat. Come on. Excellent job, my friends. We can actually eliminate B because of one little word. Look here. The metaphor of the invisible hand. Uh, it is nevertheless a useful model of how individuals do so and so. And sorry to tell you guys, but useful is extra information right here. Let's take a look at the part that says individuals produce aggregate benefits. Let's take a look up here. So, 18th century economist Adam Smith is famed for his metaphor of the invisible hand, which he putatively used to illustrate a robust model of how individuals produce aggregate benefits by pursuing their own economic interests. What is the meaning of the word putatively? Come on, we took this before. Who knows what the word putatively means? Come on, guys. Come on, come on, come on. Putatively. Look it up if you don't remember. Tell me in the chat. Come on. What does putatively mean? Let's go, people. People are searching everywhere. Come on, we learned this before together. Habiba, Maryam, Malak, Ziad, Sarah, Noor. All right. Putatively means something that is supposed to be true, right? Okay. But did anybody say that it was useful, a useful model of how individuals? No. It was supposedly supposed to do so. Supposedly, okay, supposed to be true doesn't mean it was useful. This is actually a confusion skill. So it was supposed to be true. That doesn't mean it was true and useful. So there's a little confusion here. So I would eliminate B. Okay? Now we're left with A and D. All right. Is A better or D? A says, although Smith is famed for his metaphor, the metaphor was largely ignored until economists in the 20th century came to realize the metaphor was a robust model that anticipated their own views. D, the reputation of Smith's metaphor is not due to the importance of the metaphor in Smith's work, but rather to the promotion of the metaphor by some. Okay, wait a minute. So answer D says it is reputable, it is well known, not because it is important in Smith's work, but rather because later economists promoted it. And that's exactly what we have here. Look, he putatively used it to illustrate. So it was supposedly right. Apparently, it was not. Note putatively, okay? He uses it only once in his economic writings to make a narrow point. So it was not important in Smith's ideas. It was largely ignored until these guys did what? Elevated. And elevated it means promoted it. So the right answer, my friends, and this is a hard one, is actually going to be the answer D, okay? D, not A. And the reason D is the best answer of all is that answer D is actually a perfect whole. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Just take a look now. This is going to be really, really easy. Look at answer A. Smith is famed for his metaphor. The metaphor is largely ignored until so-and-so. Answer A is actually a part. Why is answer A a part? Because it doesn't talk about the metaphor being unimportant in Smith's work. So if you look at the passage, at the text really closely, the text is basically divided into parts. Here, let's do this in orange. This part says that Smith is famous for the invisible hand metaphor. All of the answer choices have this. Wait a minute. He putatively used it to illustrate the robust model of how individuals do so and so. Putatively means supposedly true, so probably not. Good. As Gavin Kennedy has shown. Smith deploys this metaphor only once in his economic writing, so it was not important in his writing to make a narrow point about the then dominant economic theory. Then it was largely ignored until the 20th century economists eager to secure so-and-so. The only answer choice that has all of this is D. Look, the reputation of Smith's metaphor, the invisible hand, first part, is not due to the importance of the metaphor in Smith's work. This is the half, the second part, the second third, like the middle of the passage, but rather to the promotion by the later economists. This is the end of the passage. So it has everything. But if you look really closely at answer A, it doesn't talk about how this is not important in his work. It basically talks about it being ignored. You see, it basically starts with ignored, right? And where is ignored? Ignored is right here. It's at the very end. So where's everything else before that? Nothing. So the best one that is a whole is D. And this is such a hard question. I hope you understand it. In conjunction with our study guide, the answer is D, not A. Whew, that was a hard one. Do you agree? All right. Okay. Now, previously, we had done this before, and we made a mistake, if you guys remember, and we didn't realize that answer D had the 20th century economists. And that's why a lot of us eliminated D and we said the answer was A. But if you look really closely, it does have economists, and it says later economists, and later here is the 20th century. All right. So if you've done this before and you answered it A is wrong. It is in fact D, and the later economists are the 20th century economists. All right. This is one of the most difficult questions ever. Now, I do want to tell you something though. On the test, never, ever, ever do what I just did. You should ignore this question right away. If you find the passage is too hard, the answers all look the same, it's very convoluted, very hard to understand, just guess, move on. If you have time, go back. But definitely don't spend 15, 20 minutes trying to do one question. You'll lose the whole thing, okay? Now, let's take a look at number 14. So number 14 is a graph question or a table question or a graphic question or an infographic question. These are different names for the same thing. Basically, the type of question that has a graph or a table. All right. Now, we usually have this question divided into parts. So here we have the graph or the graphic or the table, which is right here. In this case, it's a table. You have the text, which is right here. And then you have a third part, which is the question, which is right here. Now, you need to use all three in order to find the correct answer. All right, so let's do this one. Hopefully, we won't take a lot of time here. Now, first thing, we always start with the question. So what is the question? Which choice best describes data from the table that support the researcher's claim? So you need to find in the text the researcher's claim. All right, this is in the text. And then you need to find the data from the table that supports this claim. Easy peasy? All right, let's go. Now, you should read the whole thing, but sometimes we can just read the part that has our keywords, which is researchers claim right here in yellow, and you're done. Okay, let's give it a try. There you go. They claim. So I just found the claim. Okay, what is the claim? They claim that two languages with very different spoken rates can nonetheless convey the same amount of information in a given amount of time. All right. So translation, and you can write this on a blank piece of paper on the test, write a note, okay? We want to find something that proves that two languages, all right, different spoken rates, very different spoken rates, can nonetheless convey the same amount of info. So basically, what are we looking for? Two languages, very different spoken rates, same amount of information. Easy? Easy or not? Come on, tell me. Is this easy or not? It's super easy, right? Okay. Now, where are we going to find this information? We're going to find it in the table, right? Okay. Let's go to the table. Where do we have two languages with very different spoken rates? Where is spoken rates? Rate of speech. So this is the spoken rate. And have the same amount of info over time. So rate of information. Okay. So this is the rate of information. So info. So we want two languages with very different spoken rates, but the same info. Okay. So let's take Serbian, for example, and Spanish. Are these very different spoken rates? Are they? No, they're very similar. So no. Okay. How about Serbian and Vietnamese? Are these very different? Kind of. So maybe yes. All right. Serbian and Thai. Yes, very different. All right. Works. Okay, I'm just taking examples here. Okay, I'm still going to read the answer choices. Let's say Spanish and Thai. Yeah, very different. You get it? So we want spoken rates to be very different, but we want the information to be very similar. Where is similar information right here? 39 and 42 are similar. This one is also similar. Okay. 33 and 34 are similar. But how about, for example, 33 and 42. Are these similar? No, they're not. You get it, guys? Now, you don't need to do this. You don't need to actually find the answer from the graph. You need to look at the answer choices, but I'm just explaining what we're looking for. Now, let's just do this with the answer choices, and it's super easy. Divide your answer choices. Don't forget, skill number one, always divide the answer choices into little parts. We do this in every single type of question in reading, forever, okay? Among the 5 languages in the table, Thai and Hungarian have the lowest rates of speech. Okay, we stop. We go back to the table. Thai and Hungarian, lowest rates of speech. Thai and Hungarian, and rates of speech lowest. 4.7 and 5.9. Are these the two lowest ones? No. 4.7 is the lowest, but 5.9 is not because there's 5.3 here, right? So this answer is wrong altogether without looking at the rest of it. It is wrong right here, and this is called graph contradiction skill. So the graph says that Thai and Hungarian are not the ones with the lowest rate of speech. So this is wrong right away. You don't need to read anything else. All right, let's go to B. Vietnamese conveys information at approximately the same rate as Spanish. Okay, we go up. Vietnamese has almost the same rate of speech, no, of information, right? Vietnamese conveys information. Okay, so Vietnamese and Spanish, same information. Where's information? It's the second column here. Spanish 42, Vietnamese 42.5. So yes, this is correct. So far, this part is correct. Despite being spoken at a slower rate. Okay, let's take a look. Do they have different rates? Spanish has a higher rate than Vietnamese, so Vietnamese has a slower rate than Spanish, so B is perfect. Now look at the note we wrote here. We're looking for answers for two languages. Answer B has two languages, right? Vietnamese and Spanish, that have very different spoken rates. These two have different spoken rates, that's true, but have the same amount of info. They have information at the same rate. So B is actually perfect. Now, on the test, if I find a perfect answer for a table or graph question, do I doubt myself and go read the other ones? No, you're done. The answer is B. That's it. Now go do C and D by yourselves. They're both wrong. So B is the answer right away. Now, in any normal reading question, I would definitely check C and D. But for a graph question, it's definitely B. B is 100% exactly what we're looking for. And we have numbers, so you don't need to doubt yourself at all. All right, guys, let's do number 15. Again, another graph question. So number 15, people, test number 8, module number 2. This is a graph question, graphic, infographic, table, call it whatever you want. First thing we do when we see a question like this, we always go to the question. Always, always, always. Which choice best describes data from the table that support Barrett and Rayfield's suggestion? Now, most of the time, if you just find Barrett and Rayfield's suggestion in the text, you can take this as your citation and work right away without reading everything. So I'll try to do this and see if it works today. Paul Barrett and Emily Rayfield have suggested. There you go. Barrett and Rayfield's suggestion. Barrett and Rayfield suggested. Okay, what did they suggest? That an estimate of dinosaur bite force may be significantly influenced by the methodology used in generating that estimate. All right, so we write our note on the blank piece of paper that we have with us on the test. What are we going to write? The dinosaur bite force significantly is influenced, so it changes based on, it is affected by the methodology. The methodology. So the methodology is what influences the dinosaur bite force. Keep in mind, I didn't read the text, I didn't read the table, I have no idea what we're talking about, but I just got something we called question keyword skill, and we basically know what we're looking for. We're looking for data from the table that supports this idea that the dinosaur bite force is influenced by methodology. Second step, you go look at the table. There you go. So this is the study. So that's the name of the people. This is the year. This is the method. So this is our methodology. Remember, we said bite force and we said methodology. Methodology. Okay. So right here, let's do this in pink. This is the methodology. All right. So this is what we're looking for here, methodology. And this one, let's do this in blue. Approximate bite force, dinosaur bite force right here. So this is the bite force. Now, what I'm looking for is something that supports that the bite force is influenced by the methodology. All right, let's take a look at the answer choices. A, the study by Mears used body mass scaling. Okay, we go up here. And remember, guys, this is a graph question hack. Whenever you have a graph question or a table question like this, you always break down the answer choice into little parts. We do this in all types of questions, but in graph questions, after you break down into a little part, you take this part, you go up to the table, you check if it's right or wrong, okay? You don't try to take the whole answer and go check. You're going to forget. So Mears body mass scaling. Okay, where's Mears? Here's Mears body mass scaling. All right, so far this is good. All right. and produced the lowest estimated maximum bite force. So Mears body mass scaling, lowest. Is this, my friends, the lowest bite force? 183,000 to 235,000? Is this the lowest? No, this is the highest, right? Highest. So definitely not. All right, so we can just take all this away. This is definitely wrong. And A has something we call graph contradiction skill. The answer right here, a graph contradiction hack, is just the opposite of what we're looking for in the table, of what we're saying in the table. And you don't even need to read anything else because the first half is wrong. It's 100% wrong. Okay? B, let's move on. In their study, Guignac, I hope that's how they pronounce it, and Erickson used tooth bone interaction analysis. Okay, Guignac and Erickson, tooth bone. So here's Guignac and Erickson, tooth bone. All right, that is right. To produce an estimated bite force range within a minimum of 8,000 newtons and a maximum of 34,000, 8,000 to 34,000. Okay, so the information right here is correct. But answer B is actually wrong. Why is it wrong? I'm not going to tell you now. Let's wait a bit, okay? You guys are going to tell me in just a moment. C, the bite force estimates produced by Bates and Falkingham and by Cost et al. Were similar to each other. Okay, so Bates, Falkingham, and then Cost, these two were similar. Let's see. So here's Cost, here's Bates and Falkingham. Are they similar? 35 to 63, 35 to 57. Yes, they are. Okay, very good. So this first half is good. While the estimates produced by Mears and Guignac and Erickson each differed substantially. Okay, Mears and Guignac. So here's Mears, he's Guignac. And this is very different than this. Okay, that is correct. So answer C looks good so far. Let's just leave it like this. Let's look at D. The estimated maximum bite force produced by Cost exceeded the estimated maximum produced by Bates. Okay, wait. So Cost was more than Bates. Here's Cost, and here's Bates. The maximum here is 63. The maximum here is 57. So Cost had a maximum greater than Bates. That makes sense. Even though both groups of researchers used the same method. Oh, wait a minute, guys. I think now I know why I said B was wrong. Look here. I'm going to use a weird color. So let's use light purple. Answer A is talking about a study by someone in comparison to a study by someone else. Answer C talks about a study by someone in comparison to someone else, someone else, someone else. Answer D talks about the study by someone in comparison to someone else. Answer B is the only one that talks about one study. So that's why answer B is wrong. So answer B is wrong because it has only one study. And why is that wrong? Because our question keywords was that dinosaur bite force is influenced by the methodology used. So if you change the method, you will change the force. And you can't change the method if you're just talking about one group of scientists or one row in the table. So that's why B is wrong. Wait a minute. Answer D then talks about two different sets of researchers, but they use the same method. And this is called a what? Contradiction. Why? Because the question asks about different methods. Because the question basically says, we want to prove that different methods will produce different forces. It's influenced by it. So D is wrong. This leaves us with only C. Is C the right answer? Yes, it is. Let me prove this. The bite force estimates produced by Bates and by Cost were similar. Okay? Now look really closely. Bates used a what method? Bates used the muscular skeletal method. The person who was like Bates was Cost. What did Cost use? The muscular and skeletal method. And they both got approximately the same force. So the dinosaur bite force was influenced by the method. If you use the same method, you get the same numbers. If you look at the continuation of C, while the estimates produced by Mears and Gignac differed, let's take a look. Mears used the body mass scaling method. Gignac used the tooth bone method, and they got entirely different numbers. So when you change the method, you get a different number. The only answer that shows that is C. And what a hard question. All right? Okay, guys, we're almost done here. Almost done. Whew. Now, I'm going to open my chat right here really quickly. And you guys tell me, what do you think? Is this easy or hard so far? Come on. I'm going to count till 5 for those of you live with me here. If you're watching this as a recording, please let me know. Easy or hard? 1, 2, 3, 4. So Pierre is saying medium. Come on, Pierre. Don't be so humble. It's hard. Yes. All right. They are hard. All right. Let's go. Habiba, you're a genius. So, next question in reading. Test number 8, module number 2, question number 16. Let's go. Which finding from the researcher's study, if true, would most strongly support their claim? Now, first of all, this is what we call an if true question. And I see a lot of students stressing the whole if true thing. And they're like, I don't know how to answer if true questions. If true questions are really hard. If true questions are just regular reading questions and treat them as such, please. The only thing I need you to focus on when you see an if true question is that you should assume that the information in answer A, B, C, and D is correct. Okay? Don't say, what? Answer B is talking about watermelons. There was no watermelon in the passage. This is a wrong answer. No. If there's a watermelon there, just assume it's right. So that's the meaning of if true. Okay? So assume that any information in the answer choices is correct. Just assume that and just work normally. Okay? And if you don't understand what I'm saying, assume that it's right on watermelons and all that. Just answer it like any regular reading question. Okay? Don't stress. So anyway, so this is actually the trick, right? They give you like a weird word in the answer choice. Say, oh, that's wrong right away. If it says if true, don't say it's wrong right away. That's the only trick. Okay. Now, what are we looking for? We want a finding. So answer A, B, C, or D. One of them is that finding from the researcher's study. If true, this finding would most strongly support the claim. Now, what do we need to find? We need to find the claim. So what we're looking for is the researcher's claim. We find that in the text. And once we find the claim, we can find an answer choice that is correct for that claim. Okay, let's take a look. So I look here first and I try to look for the claim. Let's do this quickly. Come on. Psychologists so and so and so and so have argued that experiencing awe, a sensation of reverence and wonder, typically brought on by perceiving something grand or powerful, can enable us to feel more connected to others and thereby inspire us to act more altruistically. All right, let's just stop for a moment, guys. Let's just stop. Where is the claim? Now, so far I can't see a claim, but I do see something that looks like a claim, which is basically these people, they are the researchers, have argued. And when you argue, that means you have a claim. You're claiming that something is true and you're trying to convince me, okay? So what's their argument? That experiencing awe, now we have 2 dashes right here, so we can basically eliminate everything in between. This is just an explanation. So you can take this away now to make it simpler. Experiencing awe can enable us to feel more connected to others and thereby inspire us to act more altruistically, means to do good things. So being altruistic means being kind. All right. Keltner, along with Paul K. Piff, Pia Ditsi, and colleagues, claims. Okay, so now we have claims. So maybe this is the claim. Let's see. to have found evidence for this effect. All right, so evidence for this effect. What is this effect? It's all of this part in yellow. So they're basically the same thing. So the part in yellow is basically the same as the claim, okay? Now, what's the experiment here? Let's take a look. In a recent study where participants were asked to either gaze up at exceptionally tall trees in a nearby grove, reported to be a universally awe-inspiring experience. Okay, so we have two sets of people. The first set of people are going to gaze up at tall trees, and this is something that is awe-inspiring. So you feel a sense of greatness, of wonder when you look at very long trees. Okay, tall trees, easy. The other group of people in purple, light purple, stare at the exterior of a nondescript building, so a boring building. So two groups of people. One group, they just stare at trees, so beautiful, so awe-inspiring. The other group, they just look at a building. Okay. After 1 minute, an experimenter deliberately spilled a box of pens nearby. All right, now I got it. So here's what the experiment is. We'll get two groups of people. So we're going to call them Group A and Group B. Group A look at a tree for a very long time or for some time, and the tree is so wonderful, it gives you the sense of wonder and awe. Group B stare at a building, and that building is pretty boring. After some time, an experimenter, so somebody in on the game, deliberately spills a box of pens. Guess what? The people who have been staring at the tree for the past minute go help that guy out. But the people who've been staring at the boring building for a minute don't help that guy out. Why? Because experiencing awe can enable us to feel more connected to others and thereby be altruistic, help other people. Now I understand that this is super good. Now, what if I didn't understand anything? What if you don't have me with you on the test to explain all of this? Let's see what we can do. All right, A. Participants who had been looking at the trees helped the experimenter pick up significantly more pens than did participants who had been looking at the building. I think answer A is perfect. This is exactly what I said. All right, so we have people who are looking at the trees. These are the people who experienced awe. What did they do? They helped. The other ones who had been looking at the building, boring, didn't help. A is perfect. Let's look at B. Participants who helped the experimenter pick up the pens used a greater number of positive words to describe the trees in the building in a post-experiment survey than did participants who did not help the experimenter. Now, a greater number of positive words is going to be wrong because this has nothing to do with helping others. And the claim that we had is that we become altruistic. We help other people. So this one is wrong, okay? No helping other people. C, participants who did not help the experimenter pick up the pens were significantly more likely to report having experienced a feeling of awe, regardless of whether they looked at the building or the trees. Now, first of all, significantly more is what we call a two extreme skill. It means much more. If you look at A, it said they pick up significantly more pens. So a lot more pens. Okay, that makes sense. But they were significantly more likely to report having experience of awe might be too extreme. Maybe yes, maybe no. Now, let's just ignore too extreme. Let's say it's right, okay? Because we ignored it in A, it works here too. But wait a minute. Regardless of whether they looked at the building or the trees, this is a contradiction of the claim. Because the claim says that if you look at trees, you have awe. If you look at the building, you have boredom. So they can't report the same thing whether they look here or not. So this is wrong. D, participants who had been looking at the building were significantly more likely to notice that the experimenter had dropped the pens than were participants who had been looking at the trees. Here we have no helping others. And you know what? I think I actually missed something here. Answer C also has no helping others. You get it, guys? So the only answer that actually shows more people helping when they had all was A, and that's exactly what we want. And this is kind of a hard question. Of course, they're all hard, but this is a really hard question too. All right, guys? Whew, we're almost done, people. Almost done. We have two more questions to finish reading here. Just two more questions, people. All right? Come on, let's go. Let's do this. So, question number 17, test 8, module 2. Start with the question, which choice most logically completes the text? So we need to complete this sentence right here. Now, just so you know, this type of question, they usually appear at the very end of the reading part of the module, and especially in module 2, these are not definitely, but most probably, usually really hard questions. Okay. So on the test, I would leave them till the very end. They should be the last thing you do. Okay. But just in case, if they're hard, if they're so hard, if it takes so much time, just ignore them. Okay. Try to guess and move on. This is just one or two questions. Anyway, I'm not saying you should ignore them completely. I'm just saying on the test, do them the last thing. Now, we usually go with writing first. So we would start with number 19 or 18, something like that, finish till the end, and then go do from the beginning of reading. So this should be like the last or before last question anyway, but just in case, if you go in order, you should leave this type of question. Okay. Now, we do want to complete this sentence right here. Given that Polynesia was peopled only in the last 3,000 years, the team concluded that. Now, a lot of people say, well, we can just read that last sentence. Yes, but you don't really know what we're talking about here related to Polynesia, so we're going to have to just read everything really quickly. All right, come on, let's go. The domestic sweet potato descends from a wild plant native to South America. It also populates the Polynesian islands. Okay, so it's in South America and it's in the Polynesian islands, where evidence confirms the native Hawaiians and other indigenous people were cultivating the plant centuries before seafaring first occurred over the thousands of miles of ocean separating them from South America. To explain how the sweet potato was first introduced in Polynesia, botanist Pablo So-and-so and colleagues analyzed the DNA of numerous varieties of the plant, concluding that Polynesian varieties diverged from South American ones over 100,000 years ago. All right, so Polynesia is right here, South America is right here, and in between we have ocean. So how can we have sweet potatoes here and sweet potatoes there, even though these are very far away and we have proof that these sweet potatoes were in Polynesia many years before there were even ships traveling between these two parts. Okay. Given that Polynesia, so here's my citation right here, the sentence in yellow. Given that Polynesia was peopled only, oops again. All right. Given that Polynesia was only peopled in the last 3,000 years, the team concluded that. So the sweet potato has been in Polynesia 100,000 years ago, but there were only people in Polynesia 3,000 years ago. So the sweet potato was there before the people, right? What does that mean? The cultivation of the sweet potato in Polynesia likely predates its cultivation in South America. So it was in Polynesia before South America. B, Polynesian peoples likely acquired the sweet potato from South American peoples. Wait a minute, this is wrong. Why? Polynesian peoples is a contradiction. Why is it a contradiction? Because that's what we just said. We said that the sweet potato has been in Polynesia since 100,000 years ago. And the people were only there 3,000 years ago. So the people didn't do anything. So B is wrong right away. Human activity likely played no role. Yes, there you go. So B says the people did so and so. C says the people were not involved. C is great. Polynesian sweet potato varieties likely descend from a single South American variety that was domesticated, not wild. A single South American variety, likely, this is all extra information. We have no proof whatsoever about this. So D is 100% wrong. All right. A, The cultivation of sweet potato in Polynesia predates its cultivation in South America. We don't know when it started in South America. Nobody said anything about it. Extra information. So actually, we can answer this question so easily if you just focus on this little thing right here. Look, my friends. Polynesian varieties, here, look here, diverged from South American ones 100,000 years ago. So Polynesia had sweet potatoes 100,000 years ago. Polynesia had people only in the last 3,000 years. What does this mean? Only one thing, that people played no role in sweet potato in Polynesia. That's it. That's the only answer that says so. So it's C. Easy question, even though it's supposed to be really hard. Oof. We have one more reading question, guys, and we're done with reading. And this is what? A really hard one. All right. Not this question, a really hard module. All right, number 18, my friends. So, what type of question is this? It's also a sentence completion or a passage completion question. And as I said, these are hard on the test. So, anyway, what is the question? Which choice most logically completes the text? All right. Where is my important sentence? It's the last sentence, the one that has the completion. Where does it start? It starts here. Okay. Hard one. All right. If you're interested in biology, if you're interested in genetics, this one's for you. Let's go. The morphological novelty of echinoderms. Marine invertebrates with radial symmetry, usually star-like around a central point, forget about the explanation now, impedes comparisons with most other animals, in which bilateral symmetry on an anterior-posterior head-to-tail axis through a trunk is typical. Particularly puzzling are sea stars, thought to have evolved a headless layout from a known bilateral origin. Okay, so a lot of animals have bilateral symmetry. Bilateral symmetry means that they are symmetrical. Okay, I can't draw this accurately enough. It's something like this. They're symmetrical. Okay, I can't even move this. Wait a minute. This is terrible. What a terrible example I'm giving. Okay, guys, let's do another one. So basically, they are symmetrical along the middle. So this half looks like this half, just like human beings. Here's our face, have an eye here, an eye here, right? You have a nose right in the middle. Your mouth goes like this throughout. Yeah, I can't even draw a mouth. So the mouth goes, you know where your mouth goes. Everybody knows. Okay, and I just thought this the whole thing. This is terrible. Now, nobody said I was good at drawing, okay? Everybody knows I'm really good at drawing. Anyway, so that's what bilateral symmetry is. And we're back. So bilateral symmetry is basically when you have things across a line in the middle and they are symmetrical. Now, they're talking here about sea stars. Sea stars thought to have evolved a headless layout. So if you know what a sea star looks like, basically looks like a star. So it has no head. They thought there was supposed to be a head and then this was the body. Okay, so this was what a sea star should have looked like. But the sea star lost its head, so we only have a body. That's what they thought. Let's see. Applying genomic knowledge of this weird thing, close relatives of sea stars, okay, so this thing is related to sea stars, thus expected to have similar markers for corresponding anatomical regions to the body patterning genes of so and so. This guy or this girl, whoever, these people, observed activity only in anterior genes across the entire body, and some posterior genes limited to the edges. Okay, what's the meaning of anterior? Anterior means head, posterior means tail. So when they looked at the genomics and the genes, they found activity only in anterior genes. So the genes were all anterior, and anterior means head. So actually, the sea star is all a head. So this is what the sea star should have looked like. A head that looks like a star and then a body. But the body vanished and only the head remained, the opposite of what we thought. We thought the sea star was a body without a head. It turns out the sea star is a head without a body. And this is really, really hard. Okay, again, on the test, guys, last one or two questions in reading in Module 2. If you're good, so your Module 2 is hard, these are usually super hard, and guessing is the best game there. So let's try to guess together. Assume that I didn't explain anything. A, despite the greater prevalence of anterior genes in sea stars' genetic makeup, so this is right, greater prevalence of anterior genes, we saw this, posterior genes active at the body's perimeter are primarily responsible for the star-like layout that distinguishes sea stars' radial symmetry from that of other echinoderms. Are there other echinoderms? I would say that this is a comparison skill. I'd actually argue that this is extra information. Right here, we were talking about the sea stars. We weren't talking about other echinoderms. I think so. Let's move on. B. Contrary to the belief that they evolved from early ancestors with the bilateral form typical of many other animals, sea stars instead originated with a typical body layout that was neither bilateral extra. Why? Because it says nothing about anterior. Look here, guys. This is very easy if we just try to guess. Look at the sentence in yellow, the one we're supposed to focus on. It says there was activity only in anterior genes, some posterior genes, but mainly anterior genes. Answer B doesn't say anything about anterior or posterior. C, although the two species are closely related, there is only minimal correspondence in the genetic markers for head, tail, and trunk region in so and so. I can't see anterior or exterior, but it does say head, and that's anterior. So maybe right. Let's just leave it for now. D. Rather than undergoing changes resulting in the eventual elimination of the head region in the radial body plan, as previously assumed, sea stars' morphology evolved to completely lack a trunk and consist primarily of a head region, which is anterior. Okay, what do you guys think? Do you think C is better or D? Come on. I would go with D 100%. Why? Because C talks about sea stars and the worms. And my sentence wasn't talking about sea stars and worms. Again, no comparison, guys. So this is extra information, comparison. We're just talking about the sea stars. So D is the best answer. So could we have done some guessing right here? I think so. Look at answer A. Answer A in orange talks about sea stars. Answer B talks about sea stars and many other animals. Okay, but it doesn't say anything about anterior, so it's wrong anyway. C talks about two species. It talks about the sea stars and the worms. D talks only about sea stars. So I would eliminate C because it talks about two. I would keep A, B, and D. B is already wrong because no anterior, no head. So D would be the best answer in my opinion. And this is such a hard one. Okay. Why do we say that we're only talking about sea stars? Because this is where my keyword is right here. Look here, guys. Laurent Formery observed activity only in the anterior genes across P. miniata's entire body. What is P. miniata? It's right here. Pateria miniata sea stars. So this thing right here in blue is this one right here, which is sea stars. So the sentence right here only talks about sea stars. It also talks about the head and the tail. So the answer must have only sea stars and a head and a tail, which makes us choose D. All right. Now, I did get one last question before we're done here. Can I explain again if true questions or if true hack? My friends, it is so simple, okay? If you don't understand what I'm saying, just ignore it, please. But in if true questions, all you need to realize, okay, is that it's possible to have a word or words in the answer choice that seems to be extra information, and this is one of our important skills, because we know that if there's a word in the answer choice that is extra information, that is not in the text, then this answer is wrong. But in if true questions, it is possible to have a word in the answer choice that looks like it's an extra information word, okay? It's possible to have a word in the answer choice that seems to be extra and still be the right answer, okay? In other words, don't use extra info skill in if true questions. That's it. Okay? So in if true questions, don't use extra information skill. That's it. Got it, people? Easy peasy? Yes. Ah, guys, that was hard. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this. These were really, really difficult, and we're done. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Remember, register for the new course, please. We're starting our new month on Sunday. We do have a test in our study sessions probably tomorrow. It will open tomorrow, but you can take the test Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Thank you very much, everybody. If you have any questions for me, please do send me a message on WhatsApp. All right. Yusuf, watch the recording tomorrow, please, and read the study guide. I already gave you the guide before. Let me send you the link one more time here. Read the guide and also watch the recording tomorrow. I think you'll find that it's really easy. And if you still have a question, please let me know. But please do what I just said, okay? Read the guide and watch the recording. I'm going to send you the guide now. Just give me a second. All right, so this is the guide I made, guys, for questions 12 to 18. Here it is. All right, enjoy. All right, thank you, people. See you soon.